Welcome back, everyone. We are going to be continuing our notes from yesterday, so I'm going to flip here for just a moment. Yesterday, we just started our discussion on absolute value equations, getting two equations set up, solving them. What does that mean? Why does it work this way? Now, today, we're going to go a little deeper. We are going to go to the back of this sheet, and we are going to start working with a little more complex of things, but we're going to start a little bit easier, work our way in. So we're going to take a peek here at number 9 first. And my first goal, we cannot split yet. Remember, we cannot split until this is by itself. So job number 1, we're going to get that 11 up on out of there. And once we're to here, okay, once that absolute value is isolated, now we're ready to split it into 2. And if you remember from yesterday, what we're going to do is the first time we're basically just going to copy it down. And the second one, the only thing that's going to change is we're going to change the sign of the answer. So once we do that, now we're just doing regular algebra 1 things to get these solved. So we're going to minus the 8 over. We're going to do that in both. We're going to minus the 8 over. And remember, with this negative here, it's like there's a negative 1. So this isn't solved for at this point. We still got to do that division to get that value. Do that division to get that value. And we're good. Okay. Whether you need to show the individual steps like we hear with the division and addition, or whether you can just kind of eyeball it and show me, just make sure you're showing steps as we go. Now, here comes a strange one already. I know, only the second problem, we're already doing a strange one. This is going to be the strange one. So my first job is to isolate this. So what's the opposite of dividing by 9? We're going to multiply by 9 to both sides. On this side, the 9's only job is to cancel out the 9. Don't distribute. Just let it do its job. And 0 times anything is 0. Okay, it doesn't look weird so far. Well, here's the thing, though. If you go to try and make 2 equations with this one, there is no such thing as negative 0. It's the same equation. I don't need to do the same equation twice. That's kind of dumb. So we're not going to do it a second time. We're just going to do it once. So we kind of like this one. Minus my 12 over. And divide by 3. And again, the benefit you have of checking me out later with this, you can pause me, rewind me, do whatever you want with me. So it is possible to only get one answer. Doesn't happen a lot, but it can. And so as we keep doing these, the other thing you're going to be wanting to make sure you're being aware of is, do your answers work? And so what we learned a little bit yesterday was the ones that tend to get us in trouble, now not every time, but the ones that tend to get us in trouble are the negatives, because when you take the absolute value of something, it always comes out positive. So we're going to double check. If I plug in negative 4, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Plus 12 is 0. 0 divided by 9 is 0. So we're still good. We're still good. And positive numbers just about always are going to work. So I'm feeling comfortable with that one. Okay. 12 is going to be our next one. And as I've said before, I have all of these worked out on Google Classroom if you want to go back at any point and try to see how those are going. Okay, first things first. Here, got to get that 8 out of here. Okay, now here's where I have another little bit of caution. We're not subtracting 12 from this. This isn't k over 5 minus 12. We're multiplying by negative 12. So we have got to divide to get that out of there. Okay, but once we do, the absolute value is now by itself, and we're ready to go and split this. So again, the first time, just leave it alone. Second time, we change the sign of the answer. What are fractions? Fractions are just fancy ways of doing division. So, what's the opposite of dividing by 5? Going to multiply by 5. Get our hopeful first answer. Multiply by 5. Get our hopeful second answer. Now, here, that's the one I've got my feelers up for. I'm like, let's see. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2, but it's absolute value. So I'm like, all right, so we got negative 12 times the absolute value of negative 2 plus 8. Well, I know that's going to come out positive. So negative 12 times 2 plus 8. I could put that in my calculator, but I don't have one, so I'm going to have to use my noggin here. Negative 24 plus 8 is negative 16. That's a winner. That's a winner. So, good idea to check. Is it going to be one that is extraneous very often? No, but we still need to make sure. So, speaking of that, let's try out 14. Okay, 14. Get our absolute value by itself first. We've got to divide by 2, because we're multiplying by 2. Okay, once that's alone, we're ready to split. So we've got 1 over here. We've got 1 over here. You're like, can I put a negative even if it's got a variable, if it's not just a number? As you can see here, we absolutely can. And so once we get that split, we're doing our thing. You're like, well, wait a minute. So I got h's on both sides. If we want to put a 1 in front of them so we don't forget, we can. I would suggest, since the right side already has just h, I'd move all my h's to that side, because otherwise sometimes people get confused when they have a whole half of their equation just disappear. Not fun. Ooh. So if I punch that in my calculator, I'm going to get like 1.3333333333. We're not big fans of decimals in here, at least I'm not. So if you put 1.33333, it's not wrong, but my answer key is going to say what you would get if you do math enter, which is 4/3. Little math enter, never hurt anybody. Okay? And so let's see if that happens over here too. Nope, we're getting whole numbers this time. Okay, now again, where does our danger typically come in? Does it come in with these? Not so much, but I still am going to grab a calculator to give you info, so hang on just a second. All right, I'm back. So let's say I wanted to check this. So I'm looking, I'm like, all right, so 4/3 plus 8 times 2. Okay, so that's my left side before I did anything. So now this side, I'd have 14 times 4/3. I got the same decimal. It's a decimal, but I got the same thing. So I know this one worked. Now let's try it with -1. So -1 plus 8 is 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. 14 times h times -1. Oh, close, but no cigar. That doesn't work. 14 does not equal -14. So that's my only answer. That's why, especially with the negatives, we check, because we know absolute value, I can't get a negative here. And we just did. So that's no Gouda. No Gouda. Doesn't happen all the time, but it will snow. Yeah. Okay. 15. Then we'll kind of see where we're at here. First job. Isolate absolute value. Add 5n to the n that is already on the other side. Remember, there's a 1 there. Don't let this become 5n. I'm telling you, I'm trying to give you all the heads ups here on things. Okay? Isolated. We're ready to split. Just copy the first time. Now the second time, this gets interesting. Let me show you what we're going to do here. I want to make sure I don't mess this up. So when I get to the other side, you're like, well, Hardy, we usually make things negative. So how am I going to do this? You change the signs on every term over here. So this is going to become -6 and -2. What you basically just did here was take a negative and distribute it to the 6n and to the 2. That's why they're both negative. Okay, if there's multiple pieces, we're going to have that happen. And so now we're ready to solve again. And again, it's totally up to you which side the n goes to, how you want to do this. I'm a fan of staying positive when I can. So I like, in this case, to move them over to the right. Man, we just can't avoid the fractions today, can we? Hey, that's life too with these. That's all right. All right, let's see here. 6 over 8. 6 divided by 8. Math, enter. 3/4. 3/4. Normally our whole numbers are going to be okay. So you're like, if you wanted to occasionally skip checking one, you're like, I really don't want to plug that fraction in everywhere. I mean, even though it wouldn't be 8 minus 2 times 3/4, 6 times 3/4 plus 2. Hey, I got the same thing anyway. See, it didn't really take me that long. So get those plugged in. Let's play here. I like keeping positive. Again, that's just me in general. Keep working, getting that in by itself. Oh, I see something coming. We're going to have to check. We're going to have to check, ladies and gentlemen. Why? I see a negative coming. -10 divided by 4. Math, enter. -5 over 2. Now, we've seen before, negatives can work still. They did in number 12. So it doesn't mean just because we had a negative, it's not going to work. Now, some of you may have wondered, because I did it quickly, hey, when you plugged in 3/4, you plugged it into this one instead of this one. Like, is that legal? It is, okay, because these are equivalent. So if you find a simpler form of it, you can use it. This time, I'm actually going to work this way. So I'm going to do 6 times -5/2 plus 2. So I got -13 on this side. You see where we're going? Before I even plug in the number, do you see where I'm going here? This is absolute value. What do we know? We know this number is coming out positive. So can a positive number coming out of here equal -13? No. So this is going to be bad, but I'm going to do it anyway. So 8 minus 2 times -5 over 2 is positive 13. So is positive 13 equal -13? It does not. So that answer does not work. Now, if you are feeling confident at this point, and you're like, Hardy, I'm ready to go. I got this. Okay? Your job is over here on the practice. On page 6, there's 8 problems. Work on them, check the key, make sure you're going good. If you're still a little iffy, okay, that's okay. For those of you that are still feeling a little iffy, I'm coming back to the notes. And I'm going to do number 16. I want to do one more, just to make sure we're feeling good. So last one to play with here. We've got negative 4w minus... Why am I doing this? It's already isolated. Don't have to do that, Hardy. Don't make more work. So just drop the absolute value the first time. And again, when we go the second time, this side, on our answer side, you're changing the signs on both. So positive 4w, positive 2. Again, just to let you see what we're doing. We're distributing that negative through to both of those. Because our second equation, we always switch the signs. And so now that I've got that, I'm going to work on getting all my w's together. If you wanted to minus 6w, if you're a variable on the left side person, that's a-okay. Get those w's alone. Looking fractionally. All right, let's see here. All right, so we got negative 11 over 5. We'll check that in a minute. I probably shouldn't have circled that already, but that's all right. And let's solve this second one. Normally, I start to get at this point hardy. Is there a shorter way of doing this? Because, man, that's like two full equations. I know, I get it. But sometimes in math, sometimes, not all the time, we just got to kind of go through the grind to get where we need to go. Ooh, 2 negative answers. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the original here. So I'm going to do the negative 9 first. So negative 4 times negative 9 minus 2 is 34. And then here, 6 times negative 9 plus 20. You're like, Hardy, it's negative 34, but it's absolute value. What's the absolute value of negative 34? Positive 34. That one works. Check. Okay, let's try this one out. Negative 4 times negative 11 over 5. Again, make sure it's the negative. And minus 2. Decimally, we'll just leave it for now. Here, 6 times negative 11 fifths plus 20. Same thing. Same thing. We're good there too. Okay, so again, working the practice, page 6, those 8 problems. Keep your notes handy, check your answers, and if you wanted to do the other 2 problems from the notes that we didn't do, those are posted online as well. All right, see you tomorrow.